Organizational behavior, Chapter 5, motivation. LOs, the motivational process, the motivational drives, need category systems, behavior modification and reinforcement, goal setting and its effects, the expectancy model of motivation, equity comparisons. Motivation, indicators of employee motivation, engagement and commitment, satisfaction and turnover. Work motivation, a result of a set of internal and external forces that cause an employee to choose an appropriate course of action, engage in certain behaviors. So when you see motivation, you got a couple things here you got to take consideration. When you think in terms of either someone is getting the motivation, that's positive usually, and there's something's going on, or they're motivated another way. Some people can be motivated for good, some people can be motivated for the bad. But the motivation is driven by behaviors and internal and external factors. Work motivation elements that interest employers: direction, focus of the behavior, level of the effort, and persistence of the behavior. So when you look at the work motivation, we always think in terms of when you hear people say like someone's highly motivated, the direction and the focus. That means it's in a desirable way for employers. The level of the effort and persistence of the behavior. What level are they operating and how consistent do they stay? And motivation has a tendency to cause those to be pretty stable when you have someone that's motivated. Factors that demotivate employees. Remember, I said motivation can go one way or can go the other way. So when you talk about demotivation, this is usually bad. These are tolerating poor performance. So as a manager, organization, if you're tolerating poor performance, let's say you have 10 people and you tolerate poor performance from 2 of those 10. Well, guess what? The other 8, what do you think that does to them and how it affects them negatively? Leveling unjustified criticism at employees. So when you unnecessarily criticize employees for things, let's say that things, this happens quite a bit, things beyond their control, but yet still you're criticizing them as if they do have control over it. Not providing clear expectations. People don't have clear expectations. They do the best that they can. But when things don't go right, well, guess what? These demotivates people because they're like, well, I don't know exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing. So think about this for a minute. Then who's going to be enthusiastic about doing it? Making false promises or incentives. When you make false promises and incentives, one of the problems is when it's false, that means you don't deliver. At some point in time, when you start, it'll be empty threats. I mean, basically be empty promises. And these are deflating to folks because guess what? I'm going to be honest with you. You're actually lying to them. Showing favoritism. You got 10 employees and 2 of them are people that grew up with you and went to high school with you, went to college with you, and you show favoritism towards them. And you praise them and give them lighter loads and you give the other 8. That's demotivating factor. Hours spent in unproductive meetings. I've heard people say this before. We have meetings to talk about meetings that we get ready to plan for other meetings. So if you spend all your time in unproductive meetings, you're unproductive because you're not actually working. A model of motivation. So when we look at this, we see a couple things here, and we're going to look at let's look at the needs and drives. You see the environment and the opportunity. You see the tension, the effort. Notice how the tension and the effort they go into, they point into the performance, rewards, how it circles back into need satisfaction, goals and incentives, ability. You see opportunities. When you look at the opportunity, look where the goals and incentives comes in. So people have opportunities to do things, and they're incentivized to do it. This is how you can get someone to be productive. This is how you can get someone to be motivated. Uh, when you have the environment, the right type of environment for them, that's conducive to them producing and doing good work, helps with the motivation. And ultimately, you look at need satisfaction. Are their needs being satisfied? And if they are, then you find usually what you will find is usually motivated people. A model of motivation, potential and performance. Potential performance. So PP is a product of ability, A, and motivation. So it's an equation here. So you see ability, motivation. So look at the PP equals A times M. So you see the potential motivation PP, product of ability A and motivation. So high energy workers, employees who are alert, spirited, and enthusiastic, feel vitalized and are eager to act. I love seeing these kind of people because it's almost like you see them, they stand out, particularly if there's other people around them who are not high energetic people. And yes, they are eager, they're revitalized, and it's almost like the ever ready bunny. It's like they're still going, still going. And I love these kind of people because to me, I think it's contagious. When you have those kind of people around, then others can feed off that energy, positive, productive energy. A model of motivation, fatigue workers, employees who act tired, sluggish, and feel emotionally depleted. This, when you see this a lot of times, barring a health issue, when you see this right here, that's usually indicative of somebody that's likely, something's not right in the motivation department. And then, and when something's not right in the motivation department, then you start looking at, well, what things are causing it not to be right? Personal strategies for energy management, learning and relationship development, finding meaning at work. So when you try to raise that energy level and stuff, learning and relationship, allow people to learn, go and grow, and look at developing relationships. And when I say developing relationships, that's working relationships. And I'm gonna be honest with you also too. Sometimes it goes beyond. Sometimes it becomes personal relationships, but they're all for positive means. And finding meaningful work. When people find meaningful work, that means they have purpose. That can help with the motivation. Motivational drives, strong desires for something. A product of cultural environment affects people's perspective on their jobs and approach to life. So what's driving the motivation? Strong desires for something. Product of the cultural environment. What's driving that? There's a couple of different. You may find there's a couple of different things. Why is these two groups do the exact same thing? Work for two different managers, and one group is really productive and happy and thriving, and the other is miserable. What's going on there? What's driving this one group to be good? What's actually it's kind of driving the other group not to be good? Achievement motivation. Drive to accomplish objectives and get ahead. Achievers work hard when they receive personal credit for their effort. Risk of failure is only moderate. They receive feedback about past performances. Characteristics of achievers: take responsibility for their actions and results, control their destiny. So when you look at this achievement motivation, bottom line, set realistic goals for people to get, and these people can endeavor for these goals. Acknowledge people when they do succeed. Give them credit, where credit is due. Some people are like, well, if you do your job, I'm paying you to do your job, so I shouldn't have to tell you when you're doing a good job. Crazy. I don't understand that, but it doesn't make good sense. And good leaders would never say that. The risk of failure is moderate. Bottom line, it may not be low, but it's at least got to be. It may not be low, but if it's moderate, it's reasonable. Because they know that what, I can succeed. My chance of me succeeding is stronger than me failing. And these are the kind of people, when you look at them, you see these characteristics where they take responsibility, control their destiny. They feel like they get to control their own destiny. I get to determine how far I can go with this organization because opportunities are there. Affiliation motivation. Seek regular feedback. Enjoy winning individually or as team. Drive to relate to people on social basis. So remember I said earlier, people start working together, you'll find that in a good functional relationship that, you may find that people are working together, but they may also form some personal relationships and things too that can be positive. Affiliation-oriented managers have difficulty assigning challenging tasks, directing work activity, monitoring work effectiveness. So when you look at affiliation, these managers, they say some things that they struggle with. They don't necessarily assign challenging tasks. Okay, well, who do I give it to? I don't want to give it to anybody. So I'm struggling with that. Who do I give it to? Directing work activities, if you got a group of people who are experienced and know what they're doing, you don't have to direct them and get all this other thing. But if you got a group of people who are not, you do have to direct them, and that's a problem for affiliate manager. Monitor work effectiveness. So here's something else he struggles like, okay, how effective are these people? It's particularly whether they're experienced or inexperienced. You got to be able to monitor that, give feedback, and tweak things as you need to. Difference between achievement motivated employees and affiliation motivated employees. So let's look at these differences. Achievement motivators work better when supervisors provide detailed evaluations. Choose technically capable assistants. So that's achievement. Affiliation work better when they receive recognition. Surround themselves with friends and likable people. So when you see these different types of motivations, you don't say one's right and one's wrong. But what you will find is one may work better in a particular situation than the other, and that's going to depend on the kind of people you have working for you. Power motivation, drive to influence people, take control, and change situations, can be constructive or destructive in nature. So when you look at this is what somebody we refer to as someone has a strong personality and power motivation, and they're motivated by taking charge, getting things done, taking control, changing things. Sometimes people can come off a little pushy. This can be constructive or destructive in nature. And that depends on how it's used. Is the power being used for the positive, or is it being used for the negative? Institutional power, need to influence others' behavior for the good of the whole organization. So when you look at the institutional power, you influencing a person or some people for the good of the whole organization, because they may play a pivotal role in some type of operation or some type of endeavor that ultimately helps you to achieve your results. So you need to try to work with them to get them where they need to be. So you look at that institutional power. So you're trying to influence them in a positive way. Personal power, need to influence others' behavior for personal gains. And this can be good or bad. It can be good too now, but it can also be bad. Oftentimes I've seen many instances where it has been bad because personal power a lot of times may not be about the group. It's not about we, it's more about me. And if somebody's putting their self-interest above that of the group or the organization, that sets you up for some very difficult and challenging times down the road. Manager application of the drives. So observe employees' behavior to determine what they will respond to. When everybody's not motivated by the same thing. So when you observe their behavior and you see as a good leader, you got 10 people working for you, that's 10 individuals. You got to figure out, kind of, observe their behavior, each one of them, to figure out not only, what determined the behavior, to determine what they will respond to. And you guys also do that as a group. And identify their strongest motivational drive. So what is the strongest motivational drive for that group, for that particular person or whatever? And that's where you want to work to. I'll call it working to people's strengths. And what's the thing that motivates that person the most? And if they can do the right thing and they'll do good stuff, I really don't care what the motivation is. Communicate to each particular employee's needs. So even though they may be a functional group, you still have to look at them. You still have to look at them from the standpoint as individuals. You have to address them as individuals to work with them collectively as a group. Human needs, primary needs, basic physical needs, universal, vary in intensity from person to person, conditioned by social practice. So when you look at the basic needs and stuff, for instance, employees, they need to have somewhere safe to work. They need to have somewhere that they're protected while they're at work. They need to have, basic necessities, the things that everybody requires. This varies in intensity from person to person. You may find one group of people that you might think they're very needy, and another group of people you may find that they're really not needy at all and need very little. But that's going to be dictated, kind of by the social constructs and stuff associated with those people and those individuals. Secondary needs, social and psychological needs, develop as people mature. So, and get affected by managers' plans. So when you see these secondary needs, it develops as people mature. If you look at somebody who's 40 years old now and you look at them when they were 20, they would not be the same person for many number of things. One of the things I like to say is they have life experience, they've acquired education and experience. So they will actually look at things a little bit different. And these things can be affected by the manager's plans. You know, so say that somebody's actually doing really well in the workplace and working well with a group of people, and the manager can come through and say, you know what, I want you to work with a different group, and I want you to do something different. See how that just changed everything for this person. Key conclusions about secondary needs: strong, conditioned by experience, vary in type and intensity, subject to change across time, work in combination and influence each other, are hidden from conscious recognition, are vague feelings, influence behavior in powerful ways. So what we're talking about here is we're talking about how people think and feel. And there are things that can affect that. And feelings and emotions drive behaviors. Behavior drives actions. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Human needs arranged according to their importance. Low order needs, first and second level needs. So we have first level needs: basic survival, psychological need for food, air, water, and sleep. Second, bodily safety and economic security. Higher order needs, top three: love, belonging, social environment at work. So again, this is dealing with people's needs. So when you have these basic low order needs, here's what I can tell you: if low order basic needs aren't met, you're going to have some problems with, before you can even get to higher needs. Higher needs might not even come in the picture if you've got issues right there. Esteem and status needs. So you see is self-actualization, ongoing process of becoming all that one is capable of becoming. So when you're trying to maximize your potential to be all that you can be, self-actualization, that's what you're doing. Interpretations. People have a variety of needs they wish to satisfy. All need levels are often partially satisfied. Gratified needs are not as strongly motivated as unmet needs. So when you look at this, people have all needs have these things satisfied. But and think about this: when you say you have multiple needs, and all needs levels are often partially satisfied, which means you don't get everything you want, but you get close to, and that's enough. But who knows what that point is? Only a person. Sometimes a person doesn't even know themselves until it actually happens to them. Gratified needs are not as strong as motivating unmet needs. So when you look at meeting needs and stuff, the gratified needs. Look at this: the motivation isn't strong for ones that's unmet. People meaning unmet needs, man. There's a strong motivation for folks to for how they feel about unmet needs. Managers must identify and accept employee needs. Realize that needs may differ among employees. Managers have to. If a manager cannot do this, I'm going to tell you this is somebody that cannot manage people or can work with people in that capacity. You got to be able to identify and accept employees' needs, because everybody's different. And you want to be able to say, you know what, I'm making sure I'm meeting the needs of my people, helping them get what they want. And everybody's different, so they're going to be different. Limitations: difficult to study and not fully verified. Providing opportunities for self-actualization to all employees is difficult. The 5 need levels have been established as unique. So when you look at this is hard to study the limitations, because you have somebody's got 10 people working for them or whatever else or more. It's hard to study that, and you have people coming and going. So it's rough to do that. And to provide an opportunity for the self-actualization, to help everybody to be all that they can be. That's difficult. It's not easy. And managers try to do their best, but and also the employees have to work with the managers, kind of meet them halfway. Hertzberg's 2-factor model. 2 separate sets of factors influence motivation. Hygiene factors, potential dissatisfiers, or maintenance factors, are not strongly motivating, required to build a foundation on which to create motivation. So when you look at the hygiene factors here, potential dissatisfiers or maintenance factors, not strong motive for motivating people. And if you're around people where you're struggling and that's an issue or whatever else, then it has to be addressed at some point. Because sometimes it's usually a sign of something going on, psychological or something. Motivational factors are primarily motivational. Motivational factors are primarily motivators. Absence does not cause strong dissatisfaction. So when you look at it, action is saying action does not cause strong. Absence does not cause strong dissatisfaction. Meaning, if something's not getting met or whatever, it may not cause strong dissatisfaction. It depends on who you are and how you feel about that. Job content, motivators that are job centered. Okay, this is things that's centered around the job. It's satisfying to me in my job when I can do these types of things, and so I'm happy when I'm doing a job because I'm getting met. Uh, uh, I'm getting the motivation for it. Job content, environment surrounding a job. Job context, environment surrounding the job. So when you take in consideration everything surrounding the job, the workplace in this. Intrinsic motivators, internal rewards that a person feels when performing the job. This is something that's internal. When somebody feels pleasure and good about themselves when they're conducting a particular job. And, you can have two people working side by side. One person loves the job, the other one hates it. Extrinsic motivators, external rewards that occur apart from the nature of the work. So this is when, you look at somebody's that's getting attaboys and stuff that occurs apart from the nature of the work. And it may not be because of the work. It might be because, you were voted the most likable person or whatever else it may be. Or people really like you. You've been very helpful with the social drives that the group has done. Interpretations. So provides distinction between maintenance and motivational factors, shows the importance of intrinsic rewards. So when you look at the difference between maintenance and motivational factors, interpretation, this is how people perceive, the perception plays into it. And that's got a lot to do with, how somebody views, two people view things totally different. I view something as very likable. Another person views it as something they're not very like. Limitations, not universally accepted. So when you have the limitations, I suppose it's not universally accepted. It may be a limitation for you, but it may not be for me or 5 or 6 other people. Reduces the motivational importance of pay, status, and relations with others. So when you talk about reducing the motivational importance of pay, status, and relations with others, there's other things that people are motivated by. It's not these things. The model outlines only general tendencies. Maintenance factors may be motivators to some people. Motivators may be maintenance factors to others. So this is, in other words, people can see things 180 of that. Outer person, ERG model, modified need hierarchy model with existence needs, physiological and security needs. So when you talk about physical and security needs and stuff, here again, you're talking about the things that you need, the basic stuff that you need to be able to survive and feel basic security. When we talk about security stuff, we're not talking about just not necessarily just physical, but we're also talking about emotional and mental. Relatedness needs, social factors involve being understood, accepted by people. So how do you relate to people? Are you accepted? Do you have groups that you belong to? Are you, how are you connected with people? Most people, not all, most people do want to have relatedness to other people in various capacities. Growth needs, desire for self-esteem and self-actualization. So when someone desire for the self-esteem, feel good about themselves, and self-actualization to be able to maximize their potential. A comparison of Maslow, Herzberg, and Adler's models. So when we look at the three, you see 5 steps under Maslow's, under Herzberg's. You see these different areas, and then you also see Adler's ERG model. Read through each one of those and keeping in mind the things that we talked about in each one of them. But you can see the differences right here in this model. Behavior modification. Content theories related to a person's inner self and how his or her internal state needs determines behavior. So when somebody look at their inner self and think about how their inner self determines how they feel about themselves. Remember, I told you how you feel and think and stuff determines how you behave. Organizational behavior modification. Application in organizations of the principles of behavior modification. Process theory of motivation. Provide perspectives on the dynamics by which employees can be motivated. So when we look, it's like, okay, what's the dynamics of this? How does this thing work? It actually provides the motivation for these people. So I'll give you an example. You say, well, this is what motivates them. Okay, now, why does that motivate them? How do we break that down, look into that, and see what is it about that particular thing that motivates them? Law of effect. A person repeats behavior that is accompanied by favorable consequences. So when, bottom line is, I did this and I got a good favorable consequence, a good result, I'm going to keep doing that. For successful application of the OB mod, manager must identify, control, and administer powerful consequences. Employee must see the connection between the behavior and the consequences. So when a manager is making sure that they're doing everything in their power to set people up for success, now you've done that. Now the employee has to see this and buy into it, and which affects their behavior, which in turn gets the required consequences. OB mod states that external consequences determine behavior. So you have external consequences that can determine behavior. Things that may not be necessarily directly associated with the job. For instance, let's say that one of the things is you're working with a crew, and you're now feeling something, or you're working in a place, and it's different. So the working environment could be different and stuff. Law of effect, advantage. Greater control and responsibility is given to managers. Social learning. People learn from observing others and modify their own behavior, also known as vicariously learning, not dependent on personal experiences. So what you find right here is advantages, greater control and managers. So social learning. People learn because they say people learn by observing others. And that's one of the reasons why you see things such as on-the-job training, where you have somebody working with folks. You get to see somebody doing something, then they get to watch you do it and stuff. Alternative consequences. So positive reinforcement provides a favorable consequence that encourages repetition of a behavior. Shaping systematic and progressive application of positive reinforcement. So, when somebody does something good, then you tell them, hey, that was good. And you want to assure them that, hey, I want you to keep doing this. This is why I'm telling you, you did an outstanding job, and I want you to acknowledge it. Negative reinforcement occurs when behavior is accompanied by removal or unfavorable consequence. So you did something, and as a result of you doing something that was not good or the manager didn't like, now I'm going to take something away from you and give you something else. So that's it. So you see now when you do that, something happens to you, usually negative or bad. Punishment. Administering of an unfavorable consequence that discourages certain behavior. Okay, now this is bad. Punishment. You did something that was bad, and as a result, you're getting suspended for a day. Extinction. Withholding of significant positive consequences that were previously provided for a desirable behavior. So this is when, consequences that were good before, you were saying they were good before, but now you're not doing that. You're holding back on that. And realistically, it's like, I don't know why somebody would do this, but it doesn't make good sense to me. But now you got people that you used to thank and praise, you no longer do. Schedules of reinforcement. Baseline. Derived from frequency of employee behavior and used as a scale for improvements. So when you look at the baseline, you want to say, okay, what is the norm? What is the standard right here? What is pretty consistent that we can see this is going to be the baseline? Types, continuous, occurs when reinforcement accompanies each correct behavior by an employee. So every time that somebody does something good, let's say that they have 5 duties and they do good in all 5 of them, then you want to encourage them in all 5 of them. Partial occurs when only some of the correct behaviors are reinforced. So they got 5 duties and right now they're only doing 2 of them correct. That's where your reinforcement is. Learning is slower, but is retained longer. So when you look at this, the partial, they still learn, but it's slower, but it's retained longer. So there is still some type of benefit to that when somebody's going through that. Interpreting behavior modification, contributions, makes managers more conscious motivators, leads to improvement in specific areas. So when you look at the contributions, it makes them more conscious motivators. You're looking at what contributions have been made, who's making them, and managers stay on top of that. Limitations, inconsistent with humanistic assumption, gives too much power to managers without appropriate controls. This is where you have folks who may have too much power, and with people who don't have integrity or smarts about them, they may overstep their boundary and do some things that they shouldn't do when they actually have too much control. Guidelines. Pause and read through each one of these. Goals, targets, and objectives for future performance. Help focus employees' attention. Encourage better planning for the allocation of critical resources. Illustrate the value of persistent effort. Stimulate the preparation of action goals. Bottom line is goals is something it's something that allows you to track, plan for, target, and work towards goals. Imagine people working and they don't have to achieve any goals or results. Well, what are they doing? They're out here in la la land. So you must have to have those. Goal setting. Motivational process that creates a discrepancy between current and expected performance. So when you look at where you are now and we're setting goals, we want to make sure that we are actually accomplishing those. Self-efficacy. Internal belief regarding one's job-related capabilities and competence, judged on a specific task or across a variety of performance duties. So when you look at this, it's like the internal belief of how you believe you're capable. You believe what your capabilities are and what levels are you able to accomplish and get things done. Tips for building employees' self-efficacy. Pause, read through each one of those. It's self-explanatory. Elements of goal setting. Goal acceptance. Attained by allowing employees to participate in the goal setting process. So when you allow people to participate and give input, they buy in. So you want to get them to accept the goals, and this is one of the ways you can get them to accept the goals, is because they're giving input and they're participating in that. Specificity. So specific goals provide focus, allow employees to measure their own progress. You got to have goals, you got to have specificity, because people got to be able to, how can they gauge whether or not they're doing a good job? And this is where the goals come in. Not only just for the individuals, but also for the team or the unit or group. Challenge. Difficult yet achievable goals make employees work harder. So you want people to endeavor. Goals can't be too easy. If it is, everybody it defeats the purpose. But they can't be too hard either. So you have to find that good balance. Performance monitoring and feedback. Performance monitoring. Observing behavior, inspecting output, or studying performance indicators. So this is where you sit down and you monitor and you look at things and you try to figure out what is what, who's doing what, and how is it working. The feedback is after you look at it, now you give them feedback about what you found, what you observed, and what you think we should be doing from that point forward. Impact of uncertainty, addressed by strengthening the actual value of the rewards offered and the formal connections between effort and performance. So when you have the impact of uncertainty, it strengthens the actual value of the rewards offered and the formal connections between. What it does is it affects the effort and performance. Basically, it minimizes it, it reduces that because people, they don't give when they have uncertainty. They don't give their all because it's actually affects them mentally. They don't give their all, therefore you don't get the best performance. The performance and the rewards. You don't see the performance does not at a certain level, and the rewards subsequently don't come as a result of that. Recognizing and accepting the legitimacy of employees' perception of the rewards. Managers must clarify employee perceptions. You have to make sure that you understand that what their perceptions are as a manager. Are they aligned with reality? And from your perspective and then from the organization's perspective. Interpreting the expectancy model. So let's look at the advantage and disadvantage. Advantages. Helps managers think about motivational mental processes. Reflects theory-wide assumptions about people. That basically people are good and can do good things. Encourages a motivational climate. Improves communication. So limitations. Manipulative combination of three elements needs further substantiation. Both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards needs to be considered. Lacks reliable measures that can be used in actual working settings. Self-explanatory. Key factors in equity assessment. The equity model. Equity model. Employees judge fairness by comparing the outcomes they receive with their relevant inputs, comparing their ratios with the ratios of other people. So, am I giving a decent amount of effort and work based upon what I am receiving? What I'm putting in, is it worth what I'm receiving? Comparing the ratios. Also, look at me, compare myself to other folks who are doing similar work when I'm looking at the ratios. Inputs, all the rich and diverse elements that employees bring or contribute to the job. So you're looking at this, you're not just looking at the just the work, you're looking at other things. Team, are they a good team member? Or are they promoting harmony in the workplace? Do they do the little things that help move the group forward, advance the cause? Outcome, rewards employees perceive they get from their jobs and employers. The outcomes is you're looking at money, attaboys, promotions, good evaluations. Those are outcomes. Key factors in equity assessment. One, inputs, also compared with other outputs. So you look at job effort, education, seniority, performance, job difficulty, other inputs. One's outputs, also compared with other outcomes. So you see the pay, benefits, fun at work, flexibility, social rewards, psychological rewards. So as you can see, they're balanced. This is the scales right here. They're balanced. If they're not, then you have a problem with this. It's like the scales of justice. But here you see where this is balanced. Possible reactions to perceived inequity. And that's when it's not balanced, that's what it'd be inequity. Type of inequity reactions. Internal, physical, internal, psychological, internal, physical. So possible over reward reactions. So we look at the type, it's inequity reactions. So we look at possible over reward reactions. Work harder, discount the reward, encourage the reverent person to obtain more, challenge the reverent person. So over rewarding, possible under reward reaction, lower productivity, inflate value of the reward, bargain for more, possibly quit, change the reverent person. So you can see when you have these things, these possible reactions to inequity, just about everything is, well, it's bad, not to the same degree. So interpreting the equity model, employees work within several social systems, have multiple resource groups, have shifting standards and personal egos, have an upward orientation. So when you look at this, there are multiple systems, or social systems within the organization, and you have multiple groups that these people belong to, and subsequently they're referenced. Things shift between standards in the job, people how they feel, their egos, and this has a upward orientation. When you think in terms of how can we go up, what can we improve. Equity sensitivity. Individuals have different preferences for equity. So realistically, one size does not fit all. So everybody won't be motivated by the same thing, and everybody won't do the same thing, and everybody don't see something that's fair or unfair the same way. Procedural justice focuses on internal, interpersonal treatment and clarity of explanations. So how you're treating people. If you have people and you have two people that get in trouble and they do the same thing, are you treating them the exact same way? Or does one get some special, get a lighter punishment than the other? You have to look at this, and you have to be able to articulate what you do and why you do things, and to make sure that things are equitable so that you don't have an inequity. That concludes this chapter.